James has been dating Emily for over a year. She was everything he ever dreamed of: smart, beautiful, kind, and self-confident. Their relationship developed harmoniously, and James decided it was time to take a step forward. He planned the perfect proposal: a romantic evening on the beach, a wedding ring he chose for weeks, and warm words that would touch Emily's heart. Emily said yes, and it was the happiest day in James' life. However, this perfect story had a dark side. Emily had a sister, Bella, who did not hide her interest in James. Bella was her complete opposite: sassy, confident in her attractiveness, and always wanted to be the center of attention. Whenever James came to visit Emily, Bella appeared in the room in too revealing dress, throwing playful glances at him and making ambiguous comments. James always tried to avoid conflicts, but the situation became increasingly tense. He talked about Emily's behavior, but she only waved it off. "Bella is always like that, don't pay attention. She has no bad intentions." James doubted, but did not want to destroy the relationship with Emily because of her sister. The wedding day was approaching, and the tension only increased. Bella began to become even more audacious. She left James random messages, hinting that she liked him. Once she even tried to catch him during the wedding rehearsal, but James quickly found a reason to leave. On the eve of the ceremony, James came to Emily's house to discuss the last details. Bella took advantage of the moment when no one was around. She walked to James, looking straight into his eyes, and said, "You know, this is your last chance to make the right choice. You are not married yet. Maybe you should try something more interesting?" She approached him, hoping for a reaction. James froze for a moment, but then took a step back. Without saying anything, he quickly left the house, got into the car and started the engine. Before leaving, James was stopped by an older man who left the house. He was Emily and Bella's father. He looked serious, but there was a slight smile on his face. "Son, you're good," he said in a calm voice. "You passed our test." James looked at him in surprise. "Checking? What do you mean?" "Bella was trying to seduce you. It was part of our plan. We wanted to make sure you were really worthy of Emily. Believe me, many have not passed this test before. But you proved that you can't be knocked off the right path." James was stunned. He had no words. On the one hand, he was relieved that it was all a test. But on the other hand, he couldn't understand how Emily agreed to such a plan. "Does Emily know about this?" he asked. "No, of course not," my father replied with a smile. "It was my idea. But now I'm sure you'll be a great husband for my daughter." James just nodded and decided that he would discuss all this with Emily after the wedding. The next day at the wedding, Bella looked incredibly satisfied. She didn't say a word, but gave James a look that made him think, what if her intentions were still real? The wedding was luxurious. Emily looked fabulous in her wedding dress, and every detail of the evening was perfectly thought out. James stood next to her, holding her hand, but his father's words and Bella's look at him settled in his head. During the wedding dance, he tried to focus only on Emily. But every time Bella passed by or their eyes inadvertently met, he became uncomfortable. He began to doubt, what if everything was not just a test? What if Bella really feels more for him? After the official part, James noticed that Bella approached him during the pause. There was a faint smile on his face. "Sans, James," she said. Her voice sounded innocent, but cunning played in her eyes. "You really made the right choice." He nodded, trying to control himself. "Thank you, Bella. I'm glad you support me and Emily." She leaned closer so that only he could hear her words. "Or maybe you still regret that you just left yesterday." Her tone was a challenge, but James remained unmoved. "No," he replied coldly. "And I advise you to stop if you really want Emily and me to have a quiet life." Bella smiled briefly, as if satisfied with his answer, and left. A few days after the wedding, James and Emily returned from their honeymoon. They were happy, but thoughts of Bella's strange behavior did not leave James. One day, he happened to hear a conversation between Emily and her mother. "I still don't understand why you let Bella participate in this stupid trial," Emily said with irritation. "You know what she is like. She always believed that she could get whatever she wanted." "I just wanted to be confident in James," the mother replied calmly. "You didn't see how she treated your previous boyfriends. All of them sooner or later surrendered to her charms. But James is not like that. He would never do that," Emily said confidently. James walked away so he wouldn't be noticed. These words about the previous guys seemed interesting to him. What is really behind Bella's behavior? A few weeks later, Bella recalled herself again. She invited James for coffee, saying she wanted to apologize for her behavior. James decided to agree to once and for all put all the dots over the I. During the meeting, she looked calm, but soon the conversation went in a different direction. "James, do you know why I behaved like this?" she asked unexpectedly. "No, but I want you to explain." She sighed and replied. "Emily always received everything. Her parents loved her more, she was the perfect daughter, and I was always in the shadows. When you showed up, I thought that maybe I would get something this time." James felt mixed emotions. On the one hand, he felt sorry for Belle, but on the other, he knew that she had gone too far. "I respect you as Emily's sister," he said, "but our life with her is not something you can play with." Bella just smiled. "We'll see, James." After this meeting, James decided not to talk to Bella anymore. But he felt that she might try something else. He became more and more wary every day, suspecting that Bella's intrigue could have far-reaching consequences. Meanwhile, Bella again built a plan that could ruin their family happiness. A few months passed, and the life of James and Emily entered the usual track. They enjoyed their marriage, planned trips, and Emily even started talking about the children. James began to forget about Bella's strange behavior, but one day everything changed. James received an anonymous message. **I know what you're hiding from Emily. Do you think she trusts you? Everything will change soon. **. He immediately understood who it was from. Bella. She couldn't just disappear from their lives. James felt that this was just the beginning of a new plan. The next day, Emily looked confused and even a little angry. She put down the phone and, looking at James, said, "Why didn't you tell me you were dating Bella after our wedding?" James is frozen. "Who told you that?" Bella. "She sent me a message where she said that you met for coffee, and that you even," she stopped, hesitating, "that you even kissed her." What? James couldn't believe his ears. That's not true. Yes, we met for coffee, but I just wanted to put all the dots over the I. I've never done anything like this. Emily was silent, thinking. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she didn't look confident. Why does she say that then? What does she need from us? She wants to destroy us, Emily. James tried to speak calmly, even though he was boiling with anger inside. I know you trust your sister, but believe me, she is lying. Emily tried to figure out if he was telling the truth. James decided that he couldn't stand it anymore. He knew he had to act until Bella went even further. He met her in the cafe where they last spoke. Bella, why are you doing this? He asked, trying to stay calm. She just smiled. You have no idea what it's like to be a second all your life. I want Emily to see that you are not as perfect as she thinks. But it's a lie. James felt like he was losing his patience. Why can't you just leave us alone? Bella leaned towards him. What if I tell Emily that we kissed after all? Do you think she will believe you or me? James realized that Bella had planned everything in advance. She saved screenshots of their messages, tearing his words out of context to make them look compromising. James knew he had to be careful. He decided not to argue with Bella, but to collect evidence of her deception. He invited a friend who worked in the field of information security to analyze the correspondence and find any traces of manipulation. A few days later, a friend brought the news: the messages Bella sent to Emily were fake. James also recorded their conversation in a cafe to prove that Bella was trying to blackmail him. James showed Emily all the evidence, including the recording of the conversation. Emily was shocked. She couldn't believe that her own sister had done such things. "She's always been like that," Emily said softly. "I just didn't want to admit it." Emily decided to break off all contacts with Bella. She also asked her parents not to interfere in their lives anymore, because it was they who gave Bella the freedom to act. Bella, realizing that her plan had failed, tried to justify herself, but no one wanted to listen to her. A year later, James and Emily regained their trust and decided not to look back. Bella disappeared from their lives, but James always remained wary. This story became an important lesson for both of them. Love must be built on trust, and all secrets are revealed sooner or later. Okay, let's continue. Let's add more intrigue, details, and unexpected twists to make the story interesting for a long video. A few months passed, and James and Emily's life seemed perfect. They were finally able to leave Bella's intrigue behind and began to plan for the future. However, one day Emily received a message from an unfamiliar number. Asterisk, do you think it's all over? Truth will always find its way to the light. Asterisk. Emily showed it to James. They immediately realized that Bella was not going to give up. "I don't want anything to do with her anymore," Emily said with anger in her voice. "But she won't stop until she does something terrible." James decided to act first. He knew that if they waited, they could become victims of another manipulation. James decided to learn more about Bella. He met her ex-boyfriend, Brian, whom he found through mutual acquaintances. Brian immediately agreed to meet after hearing Bella's name. "You have to be careful," Brian said as they sat in the cafe. "She ruined my life." "How? What did she do?" James asked. "She was a master of intrigue," Brian replied. "She made people against each other, made up lies, and did everything to appear innocent. When I tried to expose her, she faked the evidence that made me lose my job." James felt his anger boiling inside. He realized that Bella was not just playing, but really dangerous. "Do you have any evidence of her past intrigues?" he asked. "Yes," Brian said. "I saved a few messages and records. If you want, I can give them to you." James received evidence from Brian that could help expose Bella in the eyes of her family and entourage. Meanwhile, Bella did not sit idly by. She began to spread rumors among her acquaintances that James was allegedly cheating Emily. She even created fake social media accounts, where she posted fake photos and messages. These rumors began to reach Emily, and although she trusted James, the pressure of the environment became more and more. "I believe you," she said to her husband one evening, "but these conversations about us are depressing me." James knew it was time to act. James decided to call a family reunion by inviting Emily, her parents, and Bella. He also took with him the evidence collected by Brian, as well as recordings of their conversations with Bella. "I would like to clarify some things," he began, looking at everyone. "Emily and I have an enemy, and I want us to solve this problem once and for all." Bella smiled. "What are you about?" James turned on a recording of their last conversation, where Bella openly admitted that she was trying to destroy their relationship. He then showed the evidence that Brian gave him, as well as fake photos that Bella published on the internet. Emily's parents were shocked. "Bello, how could you?" exclaimed the mother. "We always tried to help you, but you crossed all limits." Emily, who had been silent all this time, finally got up. "You always tried to humiliate me, but this time you lost everything," she said coldly. "You are no longer a part of our lives." Bella tried to justify herself, but everyone understood her true intentions. She lost the trust of her family and was left alone. James and Emily decided to move to another city to start a new life away from intrigue. However, before they left, James received the last message from Bella. Asterisk, this is not the end yet. You'll hear more about me. This story was a difficult test for James and Emily, but they realized that their love was stronger than any intrigue. Bella disappeared from their lives, but her shadow still reminded of itself from time to time. Is this really the end? Will Bella find a way to destroy their happiness again? James and Emily moved to a small town to start a new life. They bought a cozy house, James got a new job, and Emily was busy arranging their new space. Life began to get things on, and it seemed that the story with Bella was a thing of the past. But one day James noticed that their house was being watched. The black car, parked on the next street, has been appearing for several days in a row. James initially thought it was just a coincidence, but suspicion grew. One evening, when Emily had already gone to bed, James decided to go outside. He approached the car, but when he was a few meters away, the car started abruptly and drove away. James barely noticed the silhouette in the window, and it seemed familiar to him. It's her, James said to himself. Bella. Bella didn't disappear. After she was kicked out of her family, she felt betrayed and humiliated. She decided that she would do everything possible to return and become the main thing in Emily and James' lives again, even if it would have to act radically. Bella rented a house in the same area where Emily and James settled and began to spy on them. She knew their daily routine, the places they visited, and even learned about new friends they made. Her goal was not just to ruin their lives, but to make it so that they would not even understand where the blow was coming from. At first, everything was a small thing. One day James came back from work and found that the lock on the door seemed that someone was trying to break it. Another time, their dog began to bark in the middle of the night, looking into the dark corner of the garden. And then something more serious began. Emily received a strange email. Asterisk, are you sure you know everything about James? He's hiding something from you. Asterisk. Emily showed this message to James, and he immediately realized that Bella was trying to separate them again. I won't let her play these games anymore, James said decisively. James decided to conduct his own investigation. He knew that Bella was not acting alone. Her insidious plans required help. After several days of observations, he found out that she was talking to a man who helped her in carrying out her plans. This man turned out to be her new acquaintance named Evan. He worked in the field of information technology and had access to databases and personal information. It was Evan who helped Bella fake emails, create fake accounts, and find James and Emily's new place of residence. James learned about this through his friend Brian, who also had skills in cybersecurity. Together, they decided to act cautiously to expose Bella and her accomplice. James and Brian developed a plan. They created a fake email from which they sent Bella a message, as if from Evan. Asterisk, I'm tired of it. If you don't pay me, I'll tell your sister and James everything. Asterisk. Bella reacted immediately. She replied, Asterisk, don't you dare. I have everything under control. We're not done yet. Asterisk. This was enough to gather additional evidence of her actions. James handed over all the evidence collected to the police. These included recordings of conversations, emails, as well as information about Bella's accomplice. Police launched an investigation and soon arrested Evan for the illegal use of personal data. Bella tried to justify, but the evidence was too convincing. She was charged with harassment, forgery of documents, and spreading slander. This time Bella couldn't get out. She was sentenced to several years of probation with mandatory psychological treatment. Her life changed forever, and she lost all ties to her family. Emily and James were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. They decided that they would no longer look back and devote their lives to each other. Several years have passed since Bella's conviction. James and Emily finally felt calm and focused on their lives. They had a child, a little girl named Sophia, and now their world revolved around family happiness. But the past, as it turned out, was not completely buried. One day Emily received a letter signed simply, "Friends from the past." There was only one phrase inside. Asterisk, no matter how far you run, the shadow will always find you. Asterisk. This put her in memories of Bella. Could she still keep them in sight? James convinced Emily that it was most likely just an accident or someone's joke. But deep inside he himself began to feel that something was wrong. To dispel suspicions, James contacted Brian, his old friend, who had helped expose Bella more than once. "Maybe it's just someone who wants to scare us," James said. "But I want to be sure she hasn't returned." Brian agreed to help. After several days of investigation, he discovered something disturbing. Bella received a parole a few months ago. "I didn't even tell the family about it. She's back in town," Brian said. "And she doesn't seem to have changed her habits." Not only did Bella return, but she also found a new way to attack James and Emily. She started a blog under her pseudonym, where she wrote confessions about her husband's betrayal, hinting at similarities with their lives. In her stories there were details that could only be understood by those who know about her past. This attracted the attention of their mutual acquaintances, and soon rumors began to spread. One day, a colleague of James asked, "Have you read this blog? It looks like it's about you." James realized that Bella had found a new way to torture them. Shortly after, James received an email from an anonymous sender. Asterisk, if you want these stories to stop appearing, meet me. An old cafe on the Na. Tomorrow at 1800 hours. Asterisk. Although Emily asked him not to walk, James decided that he had to put an end to it. The next evening he came to the cafe. Bella was sitting in the corner, now with a stern expression on her face. "Did you start again?" he asked directly. "I want you to listen to me," she replied. "You ruined my life, James. Everyone thought I was guilty, but I just wanted to protect you from myself." "It's absurd," he interrupted. "I exposed you, and you destroyed yourself." Bella was silent for a few seconds, and then replied, "Now I have a plan to fix everything." Bella explained that she is willing to stop her blog and leave them alone, but only on one condition. "Emily has to apologize to me publicly." "Are you serious?" James asked. "You will get nothing but another defeat." "Then I will continue," she replied with a challenge. "And this time I will make Emily lose confidence in you forever." James realized that Bella was trying to drag them into her games again. This time, James and Emily decided that they would not just defend themselves. They created their own plan. Brian helped them gather evidence that Bella had not changed her methods. When Bella decided to publish another recriminating blog post, he was immediately blocked for copyright infringement. All her accounts were tracked, and evidence of her illegal actions was handed over to the police. Bella was soon under investigation again, and this time she was tried not only for harassment, but also for cyberattacks and slander. Freedom at last. After the second trial, Bella was sentenced to real imprisonment. This time she was even deprived of the possibility of early release. James and Emily were finally able to live peacefully. They continued to build their happy life with Sophia, knowing that Bella would never return again. Several years have passed since Bella's second conviction. James and Emily seem to have forgotten about this episode forever. They continued to live a happy family life with their daughter Sophia, who was now a schoolgirl. Their new city became a quiet harbor for them, where they could finally breathe peacefully. But one day, when Emily was returning home from work, she noticed something strange. On the driveway near their house there was an envelope without stamps, signed with only one letter, B. She opened the envelope. Inside was a photo of her, James and Sophia playing in the yard, taken clearly from afar. Under the photo there was an inscription. Asterisk family. It's so easy to lose her if you don't keep secrets. Asterisk. Emily got white. Bella was in prison. But if it's not her, then who? James, learning of the letter, immediately turned to the police. But the investigation yielded nothing. No fingerprints, no marks. It was an almost perfectly thought-out act of intimidation. Brian, James' friend, decided to help again. He began checking social media, blogs, and forums associated with Bella, and soon discovered something disturbing. On one closed forum, someone under the pseudonym B.Revenge published stories that were very reminiscent of those that Bella had written in a blog earlier. Moreover, this user claimed that he has a faithful accomplice ready to complete what began many years ago. It's not Bella herself, Brian said to James. But it's someone who is very close to her. James immediately thought of Evan, Bella's former accomplice. According to the data that could be found, he was also released from prison about a year ago. Police confirmed that after his release, he moved to another state, but his tracks were lost. James and Brian decided to set up an ambush. They installed cameras around the house and hired a private detective to track down possible stalkers. One evening, when the whole family was already asleep, the camera in the yard recorded a strange movement. A dark silhouette of a man came to their house and left something at the door. It was a box tied with a red ribbon. James immediately called the police. They carefully opened the box. Inside was a dog toy, the same one that Sophia had lost a few days ago on the playground. Under the toy was an inscription. "I'm watching. And now you know that I'm always there for you." Brian, studying the B.Revenge forum, found a disturbing post where the author hinted at specific dates and places. These dates coincided with the days when James and Emily received disturbing messages. But the worst thing was that in one of the posts there was a photo of Sophia taken during her walk to school. The author signed it. It's so easy to reach those you love. The game is just beginning. It was a threat that could no longer be ignored. Unraveling Bella's connections, James and Brian came across an amazing fact. The person who passed on the information to her during her imprisonment was an acquaintance of the family. It was a neighbor from their new city who seemed too friendly from the beginning. A man named Mark helped Bella learn about their movements, gave her photos and coordinated Evan's actions. He was always there, James said angrily. We trusted him, and he worked for Bella. James and the police decided to arrange an ambush to catch Mark and Evan. From Mark's overheard call, it became known that he was preparing a final meeting with Evan, where they planned to kidnap Sophia to force James and Emily to pay for their mistakes. When Mark and Evan met in an abandoned warehouse, the police surrounded the building. They were arrested on the spot. In the trunk of their car they found fake documents for Sophia and all the evidence of their plans. Bella disappears forever. During the interrogation, Mark admitted that he had received direct instructions from Bella even before her imprisonment. Although she was behind bars, her influence remained strong through a network of accomplices. The police found a way to end all her connections. Bella was transferred to isolation, and she could never contact anyone again. This time, it's all really over. James, Emily and Sophia moved even further, to a place where no one knew them. They changed their names to finally break away from Bella's shadow. This story has left a mark on their lives forever, but it has also made them stronger. They realized that the most important thing is family and willingness to fight for those you love.